Ankle Dan.
Hey,
You know,
did you just call me Ankle Dan?
Ankle Dan. I just called you Ankle Dan. I haven't called you that in a long time. We
No,
thought that
no,
was behind us, didn't we?
You were focused on my wrists for a long time now.
I have been mostly focused on your wrist, but you have the most incredibly slender ankles I've ever seen on a man person.
It's like
I
a
call
Barbie
them
doll.
elegant. I like to go with elegant.
They're very elegant. I call them dankles. So, Ankle Dan, now that we've
Yes.
established our joint fetishes,
Yeah.
there's here at the How to Heretic, there's a 50% off drinks special.
Ooh,
Yeah, for
Wow.
for Ladies' Night.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and we are three men. There are not a lot of ladies on this show.
No.
Listeners sometimes remind us. So today, Doug, I think, is going to serve up that drink special to a very special guest.
Hey, listen, every night is ladies' night at my place, and
Is it?
every week is infrastructure week. So, well, dear uncles, these are indeed dark times, so we must revel in the good news when we can find it. And last week, there was some. This last week, the first African-American / Indian-American woman was selected to be part of a major party ticket. So
Yay.
it will be cold comfort when the election is inevitably stolen, but it's something. So rock on, Kamala.
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 Yes.
Thank you. Cody, fix that so no one ats me. This news had me wanting to bask in some female energy, so to prepare for this segment, I put on some Helen Reddy and got to work. At first, I thought I would celebrate with you by
For anyone under 60, Helen Reddy was a recording artist from Australia, I believe. Yeah.
At first, I thought I would celebrate with you by quoting Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's new single WAP at length. And if you don't know what that stands for, don't look it up.
Do look it up.
I know
Awesome.
exactly. I like what it stands for.
Yeah.
However, I was informed by Andrew Torres that this would be such an egregious act of cultural appropriation that it would effectively nullify the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. So I will not do that. And if you're wondering why Ben Shapiro doing exactly that had no lasting effects, well, it turns out that you must be this tall to nullify the Constitution.
I loved how horrified he was by that.
That
Oh
was.
my God.
Is there anything
Horrified.
more singularly pathetic than a white man quoting rap lyrics disapprovingly?
Yes.
Oh, it was delightful. Actually, I really enjoyed it thoroughly.
And refusing to engage in female liberated sexuality by refusing to say pussy.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
What a
P word.
Wet ass P word.
Wet-ass P
Whores
word.
in this house. There are whores in this house. There are whores in this house.
I don't quite understand him, but I'm not going to try. So,
Yeah.
instead of quoting Cardi B, I thought we could reach back into the tomb of of dead gods and goddesses and talk about a badass goddess, Ishtar.
Oh yeah.
Whew. And before you ask, no, we're not going to talk about the 1987 buddy comedy Ishtar starring Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty.
Boo, bummer. It's the best movie. I don't think I saw it.
By the way, if you have seen that movie and you liked it, I highly recommend letting it exist in your memory only.
Yeah.
Hoffman and Beatty's ham-fisted scene chewing is the least problematic thing about it.
Yeah, apparently it's legendarily terrible, right?
It's
like,
Yeah, it's like one of the great bad movies of all time.
yeah, one of
Yeah.
the biggest flops of all time.
And just stuffed full of problematic cultural references. But
Perfect.
yeah. So
Excellent.
Ishtar, originally called Inanna, was the Sumerian goddess of love, beauty, sex, war, justice, and political power, and was also known as the Queen of Heaven. So
she was the Jared Kushner of her time. She just had all the jobs.
So Ishtar was a pretty heavy hitter. She dates back as far as 4000 BCE, but was a fairly regional minor deity until the conquest of Sumer by Sargon of Akkad in 2300 BCE. And before you ask, no, we're not going to talk about the anti-feminist gamer-gator Carl Benjamin, who calls himself Sargon of Akkad. I would say that he's worth his own segment if we ever are in a really sour mood someday, but I don't think he deserves any more oxygen.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
What's ironic about that is that the actual Sargon of Akkad was a major devotee of Ishtar, and as we'll see, there may be no goddess in history less applicable to an anti-feminist rape apologist like Benjamin. But I guess that's his problem.
That's one of them.
Yeah. The actual Sargon of Akkad conquered Mesopotamia and may be the first person to rule over what we would call an empire. As the various city-states of what would be called the Akkadian Empire began sharing gods and goods, they combined Inanna with a similar goddess, Ishtar. So going forward, we'll actually refer to her as Inanna Ishtar, which is kind of how she's referred to in scholarly circles, which I am not a part of. Under her new name, she became one of the most widely worshipped deities in the Sumerian pantheon and became the highest deity in the Assyrian pantheon, even outranking Ashur. She appears in more myths and legends than any other Sumerian deity, including prominently in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Jewish Bible, and as we'll talk about, she influenced many other female goddesses to come. Temples to Inanna Ishtar were constructed throughout the region, and her prominence, as her prominence rose, she basically assimilated other minor female deities, including, among many others, Kilili and Sahirtu, who were two other goddesses of love and sex. So it seems that her prominence as the goddess of sex and love and her assimilation of other sexual goddesses produced a goddess of somewhat open sexual fluidity.
Well, you are what you eat, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you keep eating all the other goddesses.
And this sexual fluidity led to the fact that transgender people were heavily involved in her cult, often working as priests in her temples. For such a prominent and long-lived deity, she had myriad signs and symbols associated with her, most famously an 8-pointed star, the planet Venus, the rosette, which is kind of a decorative round flower icon, doves, and the lioness. Stone figures of a wide-hipped woman clutching her breasts were also common symbols, and women would use these molds to make cakes in that form as part of ritual worship. So that's interesting.
Wow, there is a long history of dirty cakes that I did not know about.
Yeah, not just for bachelorette parties.
Yeah, and
I like it.
When did cake baking become? It seems like modern cake baking is the exclusive province of right-wing Christians. How the fuck did that happen?
Yeah. I don't know what makes you go into the floral arts or baking if you're just a complete scathing bigot, but there you go.
Right.
So, Inanna Ishtar was young, impetuous, and ambitious, and although she was the goddess of sex and love, she was not the goddess of marriage or motherhood.
Nice.
Differing accounts have her married, but she was absolutely not faithful to her husband, and it appears she had no children, although accounts differ. Let's just say that Inanna Ishtar would have made Mike Pence very uncomfortable. Although she
That's
probably
a very low bar, Doug.
Exactly. Scholars differ on whether her rituals included sexual acts, with some arguing that they did, and they even included homosexual acts. Although she probably had no children, she had many brothers and sisters, including a twin named Utu, who was the god of the sun, and a sister named Erish Kigal, who was the goddess of the underworld. So kind of a family to watch, I suppose. There are many familiar elements in the countless myths about her, including a tree in a garden with a serpent in it, as well as the appearance of Lilitu, the forerunner of Lilith, and therefore Eve, which we talked about back in episode 56.
Yeah.
There is another tree whose fruit contains carnal knowledge. In one myth, she tries to conquer the underworld and is killed, but brought back to life 3 days later. And in another, a shepherd and a farmer compete for her favor in a precursor to the story of Cain and Abel. So everything old is new again.
Hold up a minute.
And all of those myths are obviously recycled through the region over and over again before they made their appearances in the Hebrew Bible.
Right.
In another myth, Ishtar sleeps under a poplar tree, and the gardener of that tree, Shuka-Latuda, rapes her while she sleeps. Ishtar awakens to discover she has been violated. Apparently he wasn't much to speak of. And let's just say she's not okay with it. In her pursuit of her rapist, she unleashes plagues upon the earth, including turning rivers to blood and a series of destructive storms. She finally catches up to Shuka-Latuda and forgives him. Just kidding. She kills his ass.
Okay.
Her prominence in ancient Mesopotamia is so widespread that although not specifically named in the Bible, she is referenced in Jeremiah, the Song of Solomon, which you covered in episode 98, and Ezekiel, which Mark found his way through in episode 88.
Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was
what is how is she referenced? If not by name.
In the Song of Solomon is actually almost like a copy of a traditional Mesopotamian love prayer. A lot of the poems that Inanna Ishtar appears in are like epic poems, like Gilgamesh, for example, and there's a bunch of them. And the Song of Solomon is a writ small version of an epic poem, and a lot of the allusions to the woman in that poem are clearly allusions to Inanna Ishtar. And then in Jeremiah and Ezekiel, it references her cult, which is obviously an enemy to Yahweh, right? So not named, but definitely referenced.
But another reference of the countless references to polytheism in the Bible.
Exactly. She was heavily influenced in the cult of the Phoenician goddess Ashtoreth, the cults of the Greek goddesses Aphrodite and Athena, the Caucasian goddesses Ainina and Danina, the Georgian goddess Dali, the Hindu goddess Durga, and even later into the cult of the Virgin Mary. So she's covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Her cult
For someone
began
that didn't have children, she has a lot of children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her influence in like the cult of the Virgin Mary is a bit unexpected. It's certainly not sexualized, but there are other aspects of Inanna Ishtar that Mary took on as time went by. So her cult began to seriously decline between the 3rd and the 5th century CE as the region converted to Christianity, although elements of her cult persisted in pockets of Turkey as late as the 18th century. Her direct influence has nearly disappeared, with her successors such as Athena and Aphrodite taking much of the spotlight. However, she has made some interesting appearances in modern popular culture, such as the aforementioned film Ishtar, as well as in the 1963 slasher film Blood Feast, in which she is incorrectly identified as Egyptian. By the way, that film was so successful that there was a sequel, Blood Feast 2, All You Can Eat,
nice.
Which had the original working title of Buffet of Blood in 2002. So the original was in 1963, and the sequel was in 2002.
Wow.
But the character, the character of Buffy Summers in Buffy the Vampire Slayer is heavily influenced by Inanna Ishtar.
Oh, interesting.
For obvious reasons, she also figures prominently in BDSM culture, Wicca, as well as myriad death metal songs.
Oh, nice.
Her most positive role in modern culture has been in feminist theory, in books such as The Second Sex, The Goddess Within, Descent of the Goddess, Inanna's Ascent, and many others. And it's easy to see why. Inanna Ishtar was a badass. She did what she wanted, took what she wanted, fucked who she wanted, and when someone messed with her, she fucked him up. So, since the anti-woman religions Christianity and Islam have taken such a grip on the face of the earth, it's a bit hard to imagine a female deity with such a liberated identity and prominent position. But Inanna Ishtar was most definitely those things. So,
Nice.
I'm a bit surprised she doesn't play a more prominent role. And I, if I'm wrong about this, listeners, and there's, I'm missing some of her prominence in, modern feminist or trans culture, I'd love to know that, because she's like the OG badass. She's such a crazy cool person.
I haven't heard her name come up in that context that I can remember, but it doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, it's not like the center of my bullseye of expertise.
Right.
But it seems like she would be in the same way Lilith is a major feminist icon,
Yeah. Because she's not just the god of sex and love, which she definitely is, but in most of her history, she was also the goddess of war.
Right.
So she was a conquering warrior. And I didn't, I had no idea she had such a robust resume, shall I say.
Yeah, she had a lot going on.
Yeah.
But that's typical. A woman has to do like 3 times the work to get paid the same as a man, right? The other gods,
Totally.
The male gods, right?
Yeah.
They probably made way more money.
Right.
And people just believed them without them having to do anything. It was just
They were always telling her to smile. Bullshit. No wonder she fucking went berserk.
Yeah.
Right.
So there you go. That's Inanna Ishtar.
Nice.
I love it.
Cool. Well, let's wave as we go by.
Let's elect her to vice president this November.
Yay.
Right.